Hey everybody, this is Matt Wagner from Emmy Wagner Performance. We're here doing some routine maintenance on our 61 Comet station wagon test vehicle. This car has a 331 stroker motor with Edelbrock heads and a mild comp hydraulic roller cam in it. It's a good chance for us to talk about a question that a lot of customers have is I've had a dual flow PCV valve on my car for some time now. How do I know that it's still working right? So you can see on our engine here we have a dual flow PCV valve going into a catch can, going into the PCV port in the back of the carburetor, which is a pretty typical setup. We're going to go through a quick video here to show you some simple steps you can do, say at an oil change or before you take a long trip, to make sure the tune-up on your dual flow PCV valve is still correct. So the first thing you'll want to do is to remove the PCV valve from the valve cover. And if you're using one of our inline adapters, you'll need to remove the inline adapter at this point. Now, the goal here is to be able to see both check balls from the bottom of the valve to make sure they're operating properly. And just a quick review, again, we have two check balls that you can see from the bottom of the valve because the valve has two circuits. There's an idle circuit and a cruise circuit. And if you follow the vacuum line that would go to the PCV port on the carburetor, if you follow that line and see where it comes into the valve, you'll see there's this tapped hole on the bottom surface of the valve. The check ball that's directly adjacent to this tapped hole, the one that has the tapped hole really close to it, this is the cruise circuit of the valve. This other check ball that has a tapped hole a little bit farther away from it, that's on the opposite side from the vacuum line coming in, that's the idle circuit of the valve. And we'll show you in the next two segments how to verify that each of these balls is working correctly. Okay, this first procedure is for those of you that have your valve set up in fixed orifice mode. So fixed orifice mode is used for engines with extremely low idle vacuum levels, and this would be those of you that have removed the spring from the cruise circuit of your valve. So if you're in fixed orifice mode, all you'll need to do is look at the valve from underneath and gently rock it back and forth, and watch that both check balls can freely move from one end to the other in each of their passages. And what we're looking to do here is to make sure that these check balls, in the event of a backfire, can move freely and would stop all reverse flow through your PCV valve. So if you're running fixed orifice mode, this is all you need to do to check the operation of your valve. If you're running both circuits, then continue watching and we'll show you in the next segment how to check that. So if you're using both circuits of the valve, this is referred to as dual flow mode in the shop manual. This would mean that you are using a spring in the cruise circuit, and this could be either the low vacuum or high vacuum spring. It doesn't matter. This procedure would be the same for either one. You'll need to check each of the circuits independently, and we'll show you this on the workbench where it's a little bit easier to see, and then we'll do another shot on the vehicle so you can see what it looks like in the engine bay. But the first thing we'll do is to check just the idle circuit. And again, the idle circuit is the one that has the tapped hole a little bit farther away from it. So if you rock the valve back and forth, you can see that the idle check ball should move freely from one end of its passage to the other. So if you can see that, that means the idle circuit is working properly. The next thing that we'll do is to start the engine and note that the cruise circuit, so again, the cruise ball is this one. It has the tapped hole a little bit closer to it. So with the car at idle, you should see the cruise ball retract up into its bore. And if you rev the engine quickly, you should see the cruise ball drop to the bottom of its bore just for a second and then retract back into the bore again. So we'll show you that on the vehicle here now. Okay, so we have our valve, which is in dual flow mode, installed on the engine. So again, the first thing you'll want to do is remove it from the valve cover. And again, we'll check the idle ball to make sure it moves freely in its bore from end to end. You can see here that it does. The next thing we'll do is to start up the engine, and you'll see that the idle ball will retract all the way up into its bore from the engine vacuum. And also the cruise ball, which is down in this case, which is the top ball in this orientation. The cruise ball will retract into its bore, and you'll see as we rev the engine that as the engine is revved, the cruise ball should drop down in its bore so you can see it almost like you can now. And then when the engine returns from being revved, you'll see it pull back up into its bore again. And that's all there is to it. You can install your valve back in the valve cover, and you're ready to go.